Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NEHA live chat, virtual inspections during COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Laura Wilde, and I'm the Senior Program Analyst in Food Safety for the National Environmental Health Association. It is my pleasure to facilitate today's webinar. I'm joined by my colleague, Audrey Keenan, Project Coordinator for the Program and Partnership Development Department at NEHA. Please note, this webinar is being recorded. If you are not okay with this being recorded, you may disconnect at this time. All participants will be in listen-only mode. Please submit any questions you have in the Q&A box, and we will do our best to answer as many questions as time permits. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a tremendous impact on the environmental health profession, and we thank you for your hard work and response efforts during these unprecedented times. NEHA is dedicated to supporting the environmental health workforce, and we have provided several resources for our partners. This information will be made available to you after the completion of today's webinar. Additionally, membership has its benefits. We create and deliver valuable resources every day for you. Connect with your peers, network, and get access to valuable resources and educational materials. In fact, right now you can get access to educational materials for free until the end of June. If you're not already a member, check out NEHA at neha.org to learn more. I'm pleased to introduce our presenters today. Julie Fernandez began work for the City of Frisco in 1997 and currently is the supervisor of health and food safety. Her many years of service show dedication to the field, encompassing empowerment of an extraordinary staff and oversight and responsibilities that include surveillance of potential public health risks, education, ordinance authoring, inspections of and plan review in commercial food establishments and pools. Also representing the City of Frisco, Texas on this webinar include members of the field inspections team, Brian Jones, Senior EH Specialist serving as the staff lead, Dustin Long, Senior EH Specialist serving as HACCP Specialist, and Alex Ma, EH Specialist, an expert in cottage food law and short-term vendors. Next, we have Amanda Garvin, Food Safety Specialist representing the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. She has the responsibility of performing accreditations, standardizations, consultations, and trainings for the 45 local health departments within the state. She earned her Master of Public Health from the University of Toledo and Bowling Green State University, and her Bachelor of Science in Medical Laboratory Science at Bowling Green State University in Ohio. From the Detroit Health Department, we have Kara Lacuro. Kara has been with the Detroit Health Department for over 4 years as an environmental health specialist and plan reviewer. She has a bachelor's degree in food science and nutrition from Wayne State University and is currently secretary of the Southeast Michigan Environmental Health Association. Rochelle Benitez is our next presenter. She is a food safety specialist senior with the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services Food Safety Program. Rochelle conducts inspections, complaint and foodborne illness investigations, FDA contract inspections, and sample collections throughout her territory of over 400 retail and manufactured food establishments across the greater Richmond area. She also regularly creates and edits educational materials, providing food safety training in both English and Spanish throughout the state of Virginia. Also from VDAX, we have Courtney Mctavish, Tidewater Regional Manager. Courtney attended college at Virginia Tech, where she earned her Bachelor of Science degree in biology. She went on to earn her Master of Science in food science, food microbiology from Virginia Tech as well. Courtney currently serves as the treasurer for the Virginia Conference of the Central Atlantic States Association of Food and Drug Officials, CASA. She is also a member of the Association of Food and Drug Officials and is the co-chair for the Seafood Committee. Courtney was part of the International Food Protection Training Institute Cohort 2 Fellowship Program. And last but not least, we will hear from Carrie Poyola, Environmental Health Technical Specialist for the Division of Food and Recreational Safety with the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. Here, Carrie serves as a food scientist. Her roles include one of 2 FDA standardization officers, training, and evaluations. Carrie has been with the state service for over 20 years. We're certainly pleased to hear from these public health officials on how their jurisdictions are conducting virtual inspections during the COVID-19 pandemic. And with that, I will hand it off to Julie and her team to begin the presentations.
Hi, good morning. Okay, first a little bit about the City of Frisco, just so you guys get an idea of where we're at. Our population is just shy of 200,000 people. When I first started, it was about 28,000. Our size is 69.1 square miles. We are located just 25 miles north of Dallas. Our growth has been about 6.1% annually, and we actually had the titles of the fastest in the nation from 2000 to 2009, and again in 2017. How I learned about these virtual inspections is actually talking to people across the nation, and as well as attending a International Code Council virtual meeting just like this back in April. So we've learned from some experts, and I'm grateful for that. Also with Frisco, we have 4 major sports teams here, and the Dallas Cowboys are also headquartered here. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Frisco, and we'll get right into it. Dustin?
For our virtual inspections, we've been using 2 applications, Google Duo and FaceTime. A lot of people are familiar with FaceTime, which has worked out to our advantage. FaceTime is installed on all Apple products, making it easily accessible for scheduling an inspection, and there's no additional setup needed. Duo is similar to FaceTime in many ways. It is easy to use and requires very little setup. The app can be downloaded, and after that, all that is needed is a phone number. And Google Duo is available on both iPhone and Android phones. In addition to this, recent updates to some Android phones have started making Google Duo automatically installed. In our experience, Duo has had better call quality and fewer connectivity issues. We do also want to mention that both are end-to-end encrypted, which has been important to keeping our city's network secure. The next slide will show some examples of FaceTime and Duo being used in virtual inspections.
So for the next slide, we're talking about limitations and legal concerns. As Dustin previously mentioned, we are scheduling these virtual inspections ahead of time. So that is probably one of the biggest limitations, is that they're all going to be voluntary, whether we can get in contact with the managers or owners at each location. And Dustin also spoke about the quality of FaceTime, as you guys all can imagine. With using technology, there are technical difficulties for a reason. It's all dependent on the connection, quality, picture, cameras, and Brian will talk later on about how we kind of go around or work with some of these limitations. So for example, with camera connection quality, we may have to ask for pictures afterwards or to be texted to us during the inspection. Another issue is if we're not familiar, or as we rotate through our establishments, we may not be familiar with the layout. And then some legal concerns is we're not able to enter public restrooms if it's more than a single occupancy. Some managers may be hesitant to use personal cell phones. As already mentioned, it's not an involuntary inspection, or it's a scheduled inspection. And one of the things that we do as a workaround for coding these into our reports is that on a comments or remark field, we'll mark it as a COVID-19 inspection. So that way for historical reports, we will be able to notify or pull them out later to verify our inspection report.
Oh, it's me. Sorry. I'm like looking. Okay, the state of current inspections. We currently in the City of Frisco conduct routine inspections virtually. We are scheduled based initially on potential risk to staff. We are actually going out into the field slowly. We do follow-up inspections. They are conducted electronically, so when we do follow-ups, we might, rather than going out in the field, other than rodents and any type of insect infestation, we will conduct these electronically via either virtually or via email. We also conduct pre-operation and complaints in person. Most jurisdictions, or a lot of jurisdictions, may not do pre-operation inspections. That's pre-CO. We actually do those, and you cannot do those virtually. We just had a Hyatt that was built. It's a hotel. It's going to be near to impossible to actually perform those virtually. So we walked actually with a general contractor, singly and properly spaced, and with our PPE. COVID-19 complaints specifically, we educate the operator and do most of that electronically or on the phone. And that's the current state. And I'll turn this over to Brian for the inspection process.
Yes, so after we schedule the virtual inspection, we send this confirmation email. The email contains important reminders and information to help prepare the operator for inspection. You can see the details include the date and time of inspection, phone numbers and video chat software selected, documentation to be reviewed, and equipment required on site. Noting the essential equipment is the calibrated probe thermometer, alcohol wipes or method of sanitizing, and sanitizer test strips. This email has helped prevent inspection delays as a result of the operator not having the necessary items available. Furthermore, it is shown to expedite the inspection as the documentation review can be conducted in advance if emailed to us, including the grease trap service ticket, food handler cards, and the latest pest control report. Next slide. So before the inspection, we definitely review the floor plan prior to conducting it. This helps to ensure we're familiar with the layout, even if we haven't been there before. Using the floor plan, we can identify areas in the establishment that need to be checked, including the preparation, cooking, service, dishwashing, and storage areas. It ensures that we're not overlooking critical areas, and it allows us to guide the operator in an efficient manner. Using the original floor plan, we can even identify unauthorized changes or additional equipment that's been added. We also review the previous health inspection prior to conducting our virtual inspection. We note any past food safety issues and directives that have been given, repeated violations that may require enforcement actions, and we can also see if there's specialized processes or HACCP plans in use. We start our inspection by taking a quick guided tour of the establishment with the operator, as this helps us set priorities and focus the inspection. During the tour, we observe ongoing activities such as deliveries, preparation, cooling, reheating, or cooking. Any activities being performed can be investigated in more detail and prioritized if they're about to end. We advise the operator that in addition to filming, they will need to perform certain tasks that may require two hands, such as checking food temperatures. As a result, it's okay if the operator sets the phone down, just not on a food contact surface, or it may be helpful if someone can accompany and assist if physical limitations exist. After the inspection is completed, we do request that they provide a panoramic view of the interior and exterior. Doing so allows us to observe employee actions and to identify sanitation and facility issues that were previously hidden. In addition, we can observe dining areas and verify occupant loads and social distancing practices in place. We thank you for the opportunity to present today and hope our experiences at the City of Frisco enables others to successfully perform virtual inspections.
Good job, Brian.
I'm going to talk about Michigan Department of Agriculture's, or not Department of Ag, but Michigan's general, what we've done for virtual inspections. And we've just got, so this is a general layout here of, next slide. This is just a general what we're going to discuss. So, but I want to talk about the overview of Michigan's food safety system. So just so you get the point of view of where I stand, I actually represent the 45 local health departments. I'm not representative of MDARD, which the MDARD does the manufacturing facilities and the retail, and then our Michigan food law, actually, we give local health departments the authority to do the food service establishments and the food for immediate service. Within the local health departments, I talked to 5 different local health departments consisting of over 60 virtual inspections as of June 3rd. And just as an FYI, how we define virtual inspections, we defined it as some portion of that had to have a video portion. If I would have included the phone side of it, there would have been over 2,000 inspections that we have done. So it had to have some type of video component. There is at least 3 other health departments that are doing virtual inspections that I'm aware of. I'm sure there's others, but with the week to look into it, that's all I found. Also, as an FYI, the Michigan food law does not limit routine inspections to having to be in person. So we do allow those to be over the phone, and there's no regulatory change necessary in our states. They can be over the phone, they can be on video. Now, that being said, some of the counties, their own legal and for other reasons, they decide not to count them as routine inspections. They are counting them as like a specialty inspection and named it something different and aren't saying they're routines. So with that, I'm actually going to hand it over to Kara from Detroit Health Department. She was, as far as we know, the first one to do a virtual inspection, so we got to learn a lot from her. Thank you, Kara.
Thanks, Amanda. So as she said, this was the first virtual inspection that we did in Detroit. And since this was the first one, we decided to do this with an operator that we'd worked with previously. So this was a local pizza place, and the person in charge had been through a few pre-openings before, so he had an idea of already what we were going to be looking for, which was really helpful. Prior to the inspection, we informed him that the ability to give approval to operate would have to be determined during the inspection in case there were issues with connectivity or video quality. And we also let him know that any core items that were commonly seen during pre-openings, he'd still be responsible for correcting those in a timely manner, even if they were harder to rectify once food and dry goods and small wares and things were in place. And then prior to starting, we also asked for permission to record the inspection, which he had no problem with. And then we did a quick walkthrough so we could get an overview of the entire facility before we started getting into the little details as well. Because this is a pre-opening inspection, I did have the approved layout and plans in front of me to look at while we were going through it, and I was able to verify location of all equipment and plumbing fixtures and all that kind of stuff. So during the inspection, we actually found it really easy to see common priority violations, such as hot water temperatures at the hand sink and the 3-compartment sink. We could see soap and paper towel at all the hand sinks, air gaps. He obviously had a thermometer that he was using. We could see proper sanitizer, test strips, cooler temperatures, and all those items. We were also able to see some common core violations as well, such as plumbing leaks, hand washing signage, and equipment spacing or sealing, and other facility issues. I found it very helpful that the person in charge uses a digital thermometer and not a dial, because the digital is much easier to see on the video. It's also important that he was able to follow instructions as far as, you know, moving camera left to right, closer, farther away, panning out, those type of things. And then as you can see in one of the photos here, we did get this message that said network bandwidth low throughout the inspection. And even with that, we still had pretty great video quality throughout. The only issue we had was we momentarily lost video connection in a walk-in refrigeration unit. Okay, these are just some photos here. So on the left is a hanging thermometer in one of the refrigeration units. We were actually able to see the temperature very well. And then this person in charge, he had a thermometer that also did infrared and a probe reading. So you can see that on the right. The bottom number is the probe reading, and here he's actually checking the temperature of the hot water at the hand sink. And then other photos here. So the one on the left here is the outside thermometer of the walk-in freezer. Again, able to see the temperature on that very clearly. And on the right here, a common core violation that we see, little gaps around the plumbing lines at the walls. And that was something that was really easy to see and he knew to look for. So we were able to instruct him to have those areas filled in as well. After we completed the inspection, I was able to share my screen with the operator so he could actually see the report I was writing. We were actually able to discuss the violations with him as we were writing them out. We did make a note that the meeting was recorded and that it was completed via Zoom cloud meetings. And then I was able to just email him the report right after he signed it and sent it back to me. So that's similar to what we would do in a normal in-person inspection, having them view it beforehand and then signing it there for you. So this is my first inspection. I think it went very well, all things considered. I'll give it back to Amanda.
So in general, this was feedback from everyone I had spoke to. They had used several different platforms, WebEx, FaceTime, Zoom, Google Hangouts, and Google Duo was also one of them that someone also added in. Everyone had overall feedback that it went much better than they actually expected. If they were afraid to do virtual inspections or if they weren't, no matter what the feedback was, it just went better. And that's how I felt watching Kara's inspection, is it just went better than I even could have imagined. The amount of time it took varied all over the place. It was anywhere from this took longer to do it this way, to it took the same amount of time to do it this way, to it took shorter amount of time. And I think a lot of that was really just related to what type of inspection and how you actually conduct your inspection versus what are your limitations of a virtual. There was lots of worry of connection issues, but overall everyone pretty much said they had a few connection issues here and there, whether basements or walk-in coolers, but overall that no one had to stop an inspection due to connection issues. Also, there was feedback that if they were on the Wi-Fi of the facility, it was a lot better than cellular. Everyone who did a phone call prior mentioned that that was a huge help. They could talk about the kind of what you would do with your process review that you discuss, or your menu review at the beginning of an inspection. You talk about all that on the phone. It's not unusual for most people to do that, versus talking about it on a virtual. People kind of feel uncomfortable and it's a little bit more complex. So it keeps it simpler by just doing that phone call first, discussing what you can, and then switching to video when you want to do the verification of what they're saying. Some people said it might not limit their in-person inspection, but it would reduce that in-person inspection, which would reduce their risk of getting COVID. But at the same time, they were able to do majority of it over virtual. So one person spent 15 minutes in the facility instead of an hour. Another really good feedback was the buddy system. So it was suggested to have somebody else there to hold the phone. If you think about it, when you're doing an inspection, you're looking around, and then that person is used to pointing at things. And you'll see a picture later where the person in charge kept trying to point with the camera at what they wanted you to look at, so then you couldn't see the broad picture. So it really helped to, the people who had somebody do this had somebody else hold the camera so that that person didn't feel like they're trying to do multiple things at the same time. And then again, like Frisco said, they asked for layouts, invoices, SOPs, and whatnot prior to starting the inspection. And then there was 2 inspections that were done by Michigan Department of Agriculture inspectors for wholesale and manufacturing. The one was recorded. They asked for permission to record it, and it was a licensing inspection. And then the other was a follow-up inspection. And as far as I know, that one was not recorded. The licensing inspection, she had already walked through the facility, so that helped. She knew the layout of it. She had asked for all the SOPs, whatnot, ahead of time. And they did do a phone call prior also. And the follow-up inspection, the one thing that I really wanted to pull out of that one is she really liked the fact that they were able to get corporate also on the call. So corporate could also be there without actually physically being there in person, which was a huge bonus. Positive outcomes, the number one positive outcome is this really promotes active managerial control inspections. So this promotes you discussing with the person in charge and the person in charge doing everything, which honestly, we want that on an everyday inspection. So the fact that this really promotes that, I thought was a really good thing. A couple other things real quick were, you know, instead of waiting for somebody to fix it, you could have put them on hold. You could have them actually set the camera up so you could see if somebody was doing something. You could watch them doing it as much as possible while they went and fixed the issues. And for some odd reason, they found that it eliminated the issue of not being prepared for a pre-opening inspection. So every single person said their operator was prepared when they did the pre-opening. Now on limitations. So pretty much everyone's finding the same limitation. Camera angle. One of them was difficulty watching hand washing. Again, that idea of propping that camera up. And the big one that we really thought was, everyone equally thought was a limitation was active managerial control. If the person in charge on the other end does not have active managerial control, they're more than likely not going to be able to give you a good inspection, just like as if you're in person. So that might be a huge limitation. Not one of them did an inspection where they didn't have good active managerial control. And on the details, the core violations, I showed this picture because one of the ladies that was using her camera to point at things, she kept moving it so it was blurry. So you really couldn't see a lot of the details. But something to think about on that is, well, if you want the details, a lot of time the pictures will help. So for core violations, they don't change. You can get a picture. And then legal. There wasn't actually that many legal concerns. The biggest thing I heard was what platform you're using could be a concern. Now, I was actually on a webinar through Food Shield, and they use Zoom, and they have the government version of Zoom, where in the background, it actually changes what servers you're using, and it uses servers that are safe for federal level inspections. So that might be an option for you, and Food Shield is safe, free to join too for government. The other one was that the recording of it. So that was the other big issue. So that is all. Thank you.
Alrighty, good morning everyone. Once again, my name is Rochelle with VDAX, and I'm here with my manager, Courtney, and we're going to be talking about virtual inspections in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Okay, so in the state of Virginia, we have the Virginia Department of Agriculture, which is us, and we have the Virginia Department of Health. Our jurisdiction covers retail food establishments, food manufacturing operations, including commercial kitchens and home kitchens, and food warehouses. We have over 10,000 active firms throughout the state, serving a population of over 8.5 million. And if you look at the star in the center of the state picture, that's our capital city, Richmond, which is where the bulk of my territory is, just to give you a picture of where we're at. And I will turn things over to Courtney really quickly to discuss how our virtual inspection program came to be.
So obviously we were kind of all thrown into this, when COVID hit, and, as much as we would have liked to be prepared, I can say that I think in the beginning we're pretty unprepared. We had stopped going out into the field to do inspections, in person to keep our inspectors safe, and because a lot of them were under stay-at-home orders and everything else. But we also knew that we would have to find a way to get new firms open, because obviously, part of our department is also to, help with the economic portions of Virginia's agriculture. So, and we have a high number of small food producers, especially ones that operate inside of their private homes. And so we knew that if we were to tell them, oh no, we're not doing inspections, that would really come back and backfire on us. So we actually kind of quickly decided we're going to need to be doing something to get, you know, these new businesses open. And at first it was a little unorganized, I will say. We kind of just had, we have 3 different regions, and we had some different things going on in each of the regions where, you know, some people were going out and actually, you know, we didn't really know what platforms they were using, and some were issuing full inspection reports, some weren't. So we were like, okay, we really have to, you know, get it together. We need to come up with a procedure. So we have a field operations manual that is basically a guidance document for all of our inspectors. And we made one for virtual inspections. And so right now it was initiated obviously because of COVID, but we will probably stick with it because we do feel that there are times when we can conduct virtual inspections. So right now we're handling all of our virtual inspections on a case-by-case basis. So our inspectors aren't just going out and doing them, you know, whenever they want. They're actually being directed by their managers to do them. And so when we, and Rochelle will talk a little bit more about, you know, our process and, you know, what we're doing, but, you know, we reached out kind of just like some of the other, you know, panelists said, we reached out to other states. We had been watching a lot of the webinars because there were some other webinars on virtual inspection. And so we kind of took all of that information to put our FOM together for our procedure for our inspectors. We really felt like, you know, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So it was, you know, it was good to reach out to other states, and, you know, we're lucky that we have a lot of good state contacts that we could put this procedure together. And we also, you know, reached out to our field inspectors, and we kind of presented it to them, and, you know, we asked them, is this going to work? And actually now we're in the process of where I'm having another inspector look into possibly being able to do some routine inspections. So right now we're just doing it for pre-openings, some specific follow-ups, so compliance follow-ups, and then some complaint investigations. But we're going to possibly try to pilot it in some areas for just routine inspections. And again, just like probably all of you, Virginia, the state, each of the localities is very different. So it's almost like we had to go through this one by one with our inspectors, and what they're doing during COVID in terms of in-person inspections, virtual inspections, very much depends on the area of the state that they're in. In our Northern Virginia region of the state, there's a high number of cases. There's some pockets of areas throughout the state that have higher numbers. So, you know, we want to make sure that we can still get into those firms without putting anyone at risk. So I will turn it over to Rochelle. So she's going to kind of go over more of what we are doing with our inspection process. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, and Rochelle might go over this, but we have an electronic inspection reporting system, like probably many of you do. It's an in-house system where we use to track our inspections. And right now, we really aren't issuing the full inspection report for the virtual inspections. We're mainly doing them as kind of a blank template where our inspectors just kind of type their additional comments and remarks in the inspection report. But the good thing is we did add to our system a way of tracking the virtual inspections. So we now have a place on our inspection report that says inspection purpose, and it says virtual inspection. So we have a way of tracking them, because we do kind of feel like right now anyways, and again, things are very fluid, things are changing. For all of these virtual inspections, the way that we're handling them now is that when we feel like it is okay to do so, we do want to go back to these firms and conduct in-person inspections. So I'll turn it back over to Rochelle, and we'll go from there.
Alrighty, thank you, Courtney. So again, like she said, we have that guidance document that really goes over the different platforms we can use as well as templates to go over with the operators to make sure we're prepared and that they're prepared ahead of time. The video call services that we narrowed it down to was Apple FaceTime, Google Duo, Google Meet, Skype, and Zoom, with FaceTime and Duo being the most common that we use. And again, that pre-inspection communication with the operator is very important. It's usually either an email or a phone call, sometimes both, to go over our checklist to make sure that they have their thermometers, their credentials, anything that we would need to see during the inspection. Doing the inspection, I like to follow a process-based approach. So this kind of helps them organize things in their mind as well. Just take me from the beginning of your process to the end. And then in each section, we're gonna look around and see what we have there. So for example, I had a brewery pre-operational inspection. So we started from the loading dock to raw ingredient storage, to the milling area, to the brew tanks, fermentation tanks, packaging, and finished product storage. So just following that process was very helpful to keep both of us organized. And just like Courtney said, we list our objectionable conditions into a note report designated a virtual inspection in our in-house system. And most of our communication is going to be emailed to the firm, but they can request it to be sent through paper mail or faxed. Email has worked for pretty much everyone so far, so that's been really great. And yeah. So for conclusions, we fortunately have not had many technological issues. Again, I'm in the capital city of Richmond, so very metropolitan area, not many signal issues, but I have spoken to a few inspectors that have had some dropped calls, and that's when the backup plan that we discuss with the operator during the pre-inspection communication comes in handy. Usually if the video call drops, we'll do a phone call, and then they'll send us pictures of anything that we were not able to see that we need to confirm with them. The results, obviously, there's been a learning curve with adapting to virtual inspections, having the operators be comfortable with everything, and making sure that we both are getting what we need out of the inspection. Overall, they've been very receptive and cooperative, and honestly pretty excited to do the virtual inspections, because at the end of the day, they do want to open and continue operating in the midst of everything that's going on. So it's a great way to make sure our operators' needs are met while complying with current guidelines and safety protocols. And as we phase into more field inspections, again, like Courtney said, we'll probably keep the virtual inspection aspect for part of it. And then the virtual inspections have priority for physical inspections once our restrictions continue being lifted.
And so just to add one more thing, you know, we do feel like it's important, and, you know, some of the other panelists mentioned this, which, you know, is a pro and a con. You know, these aren't going to be completely unannounced inspections. You are going to have to make contact with the owner, let them know that this is the way that the inspection is going to go. And, you know, it takes a little bit more time because you're having to do more prep work. You're, you know, having to make contact with the owner beforehand, explain to them, hey, this isn't going to be a normal inspection. We're going to do it virtually. You have to make sure that they have access to the platform that you want to use, or you have to come up with a platform that's, you know, going to be able to be used by both of you. You know, we are still showing them, you know, during the virtual inspection, our credentials, our badges, our IDs. We're asking them who's present for their you know, for their inspection. And, you know, we're letting them know, you know, hey, this is a new process for all of us. There might be some technical issues, you know, provide us with a phone number so we can contact you if something, you know, drops. And we let them know, you know, hey, we might not be able to see everything on this virtual inspection, but it is your responsibility to comply with all of our regulations. So if we come back during, you know, an in-person inspection and you're not in compliance, you need to get yourself into compliance. So, you know, again, it's been a learning curve. We have this procedure now. It might change, you know, over time. We're kind of just getting our feet wet with it now. And, you know, we're excited to participate in webinars like this and hear from other states on, you know, what they're doing. Again, none of us want to reinvent the wheel. So it's great to have webinars like this where we can all see what one another's doing.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, hi, I'm the last one up. I'm Carrie from Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. I'm going to discuss how and when we did virtual inspections during the COVID pandemic. And I want to also mention that inspections that we're conducting using the following guidance were done by our department staff. We do have agencies that hold contracts with our department to license and inspect facilities that have also been conducting some forms of virtual inspections when they could not maintain social distancing. So as I said, we have been conducting some virtual pre-inspection licensing inspections. This is the list of the various programs for retail food. They were mainly done using FaceTime, some Skype, and one or so on Zoom. We drafted guidance as a means to give our staff something to utilize when conducting these inspections. Since this type of inspection and the situation is different than we're used to when going on site. So the guidance wasn't meant to be all encompassing, but rather to just focus on the biggest, most important items to see, and also provide prompts for staff to utilize during the inspection if they were to release a license based on the virtual inspection. I also want to mention too that they will receive priority for an on-site inspection once our staff is able to return to the field, to ensure that what we were seeing during that virtual inspection is actually what is happening and is accurate, and that we didn't miss anything. And again, as Amanda stated, active managerial control, we're looking, making sure that's in place. If during the time we run into issues or have concerns during that on-site visit, when it does happen, we will work with our compliance folks to take actions to ensure corrections are made. Otherwise, that facility will be put on the routine inspection schedule. I also want to add, all of our virtual inspections were scheduled in advance, and the operator was given notification of what would be reviewed during the virtual inspection, also giving the opportunity to receive the menu and any SOPs or documentation that the inspector might want to review beforehand. So the first virtual inspection I'm going to talk about, as you notice, there were several different kind of virtual pre-licensing inspections we were doing, was retail food. And we really wanted to highlight that the inspectors, if any of you have taken the FDA plan review class, any sort of pre-licensing, pre-operational inspections, you really want to focus on the menu. Do they have the adequate facilities to support that menu? We would then have the operator do a walkthrough of the facility, kind of, when you're doing your inspection, walk through to see where you want to focus that, a majority of that inspection, or where you want to, how you want to prioritize that inspection. Again, this is a pre-licensing inspection, so really there should be no consumers in the facility. We would also have discuss the water and food supply. If it was a well water, they would have to provide safe well tests to us. Where are they getting their food from? During that walkthrough, we're verifying thermometers and coolers, and having that operator calibrate their thermometers to demonstrate that it's accurate. We would be looking at hand sinks. Are they supplied? Other sorts of sinks, your warewashing sinks. We would have someone in the establishment fill the sinks and show us how to ensure proper sanitization levels, and also what kind of sanitizer were they using. Is it EPA registered? Again, overall facilities, is it smooth, easily cleanable? Is equipment ANSI approved? If not, has it gone through our equipment committee for review? We would talk about licensing. Are there banquet rooms? Again, we license based on risk. So that's very important that they're having that discussion with the operator on what preparations, are they serving highly susceptible populations? Are they catering? And there were some specific things that we really wanted to discuss and get procedures or policies beforehand. As I said, employee health and hygiene. How are they going to practice social distancing if they're going to open up? And finally, as I said, conduct that assessment based on what they will do once restrictions are lifted. The next program where we had done some virtual inspections was our mobile base, mobile food. So, you know, we'd want to ensure that they had a mobile service base. Sometimes that would be a separate virtual inspection. Just take a look. Again, this is probably a much easier virtual inspection to conduct because it's a very condensed, smaller space. But again, having those discussions about safe food, approved water, how are they dumping their liquid waste, you know, food preparation areas, and is that mobile food unit being returned every 24 hours? These are just kind of questions that our staff were checking off on our checklist, our guidance documents that had been provided. I also want to make mention too for the retail food. We had conducted 32 pre-licensing inspections for restaurant type facilities and 64 licensing inspections for retail. So as of last week, we had done a total of 96 virtual pre-licensing inspections to licensed food facilities. So our staff had been, you know, doing some of those inspections. Again, so next would be push carts. Again, just a discussion of service base. That would be that separate virtual inspection, water source, how they're dumping it, and just basic construction. I don't believe any of the staff had conducted any sort of push cart pre-licensing inspections to this point, but the season is upon us. So I'm guessing that there might be a slight uptick in those inspections as well. We are on a kind of a stepped plan, a phased plan to get back out in the field. So as far as I know, field staff are still off limits until the end of June. So as I said, we're probably going to see an uptick in these types of pre-licensing inspections occurring as well. The next one, they would do some temporary event pre-licensing inspections. Guidance was also developed for conducting those as well. If anyone is interested in seeing those, the guidance documents, I'm more than willing to share them with you. In Wisconsin, as most of you also are aware, we do, USDA requires 2 school inspections. So the second school inspection in Wisconsin is a review of the school's food safety plan, which is developed and based on HACCP principles. For the school to be in compliance with USDA requirements, they must be able to document that they requested the inspections, regardless if they received the inspection or not. This came directly from USDA. So although we might not meet our school's second inspection requirement, the burden is on that school to make the request for the inspection. So they should not be penalized for their school breakfast and lunch programs if they've made that request. If the request was made, it would have been, or it should be documented in our electronic inspection system, which every jurisdiction in the state uses except for 2, which is very helpful. We're using HealthSpace. And I do want to add too that every effort was made to conduct the second school inspection virtually. And really it's a kind of like a HACCP plan review. So it's really a paperwork review. So I think that wasn't as difficult as it was to do a traditional routine or pre-licensing type inspection. Our staff did also do food safety checks, focused food safety phone calls during the recent past few months. So it would be those facilities that were being checked up on that did not have email addresses on file that were receiving our guidance documents. And it was just some messaging that we're there to support them, let them know that if they need anything to contact us, understand that they may be experiencing staff shortages, and how are they operating? A lot of our operations now in our restaurants have gone from, you know, sit down to now all of a sudden they're doing carry out and delivery and curbside, which, you know, they'd not done in the past. You know, how are they doing that? Are they doing it safely? just reminding them that if employees are ill, they should stay home. If they have questions above and beyond the guidance documents, that feel free to contact the department. And we really were looking to collect current information, so electronic messaging could be sent to our operators. I also wanted to add that we did do 381 food safety checks overall for food only, so that would be your restaurants and retail. I also wanted to make mention that virtual licensing inspections were conducted for our rec programs as well. Here's a list of them. So those include your pools, your rec ed camps, lodging, bed and breakfast, and campgrounds. Within our lodging, we do license, they're called tourist rooming houses. They're people's personal cabins that they may want to rent out. So quite a few virtual pre-operational licensing inspections and routine inspections were conducted for our tourist rooming houses. We have had some questions on language, as most of the other jurisdictions on this webinar have alluded to, provided for the virtual inspections. So this is just what was kind of the canned language that was placed on the inspection reports. Again, you can either take a screenshot of it, or if you are interested in the exact language, you can send me an email. And I want to make mention, to complete the licensing process, you can see it in bold on the bottom, and receive the license. Please reply to this email with an acknowledgement that pre-license and the inspection report has been received. Our protocol is to email inspection reports directly out of Health Space to begin with. So people in the state are accustomed to receiving their reports via email. It's just not, we're not capturing that signature on the tablet. So here's the contact information if you would like to discuss further what we are doing and what the future holds in Wisconsin. I'd also just like to thank Kelsey Cahoot. She's one of our field supervisors. She was really instrumental in helping me put all this information together, and she was the initiator of working on the guidance document for doing the retail food inspections. And also I want to make mention that we are gearing up to get back into the field, and we do have some guidance that was developed for our field staff as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much to all of our presenters today. There was some really excellent, valuable information here, and I see that we have lots of questions on the board, so we're going to dive right in. A few of the questions asked if the presentation would be shared as well as contact information and guidance materials, and certainly we will have this webinar is being recorded, and we will provide in a follow-up email the guidance documents and any materials that these various jurisdictions would like to share. A question came up on the board if legal department was contacted prior to conducting these inspections, so that there were no issues legally. So any of the jurisdictions would like to answer, did you contact your legal departments prior to beginning these, and what was that process like?
Hi, this is Julie Fernandez with Frisco, Texas. Even though this is, we probably don't have much of an answer. However, I did request, because every time we talk to legal, it is money. So I did request that we pose this question to them. However, I did it at a very last minute. I do hope that we will get an answer, but what I'm pretty well understanding is that without an ordinance specifying our enforcement power during these times, I know that the operator could completely challenge these virtual inspections and the report, but whatever we do, and I put it in the chat, is public record. So that's why we have noted that each of our inspections are due to COVID-19. That way we can query for them and single them out if we need to in the future. Other than that, I don't have any direct comments. So.
Anyone else want to comment?
This, Carrie, so we did work with our legal on the language, the example language that I showed, and what to put on an inspection report for the virtual inspection. And it basically leads back to pandemic.
Great, thank you. Another question is, did you have language assistance or translation services? And if so, how did that work during a virtual inspection?
So this is Amanda from Michigan. There was two different people who, well, there's one that had language assistance and it was just like a normal inspection. It was a family member who did that, but because it was scheduled, they actually could schedule someone to be there for the language assistance where they normally wouldn't have had anyone. So that was an improvement. And also one of our counties, I don't know how to say this, but it's Voyance, uses Voyance for contact tracing calls, but they also have gotten permission to use it for virtual inspections.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment on that? Okay, several people have asked if the virtual inspections were successful, and is your jurisdiction planning on continuing these inspections? I think several states, specifically VDAX, was saying that they would probably, depending on what it is. But I'm wondering if any of the other states or local jurisdictions on the call do intend to continue their virtual inspections.
Go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah, as of right now, I don't think there's been any discussion in Wisconsin to continual virtual inspections, except for possibly, like I had mentioned, on the rec end of it, maybe doing virtual inspections for our tourist rooming house, our cabin licenses.
This is Dustin with the City of Frisco. We have discussed possibly continuing to use them for follow-ups on certain items, but as far as full routine inspections goes, chances are we will not continue to do it.
Amanda from Michigan again, and there's been some counties discussing it, states discussed it a little, but there's no for sure whether we're going to keep using it. We definitely see that there could be some uses for it, like with follow-ups or even some use in some plan review type thing, since the state and plan reviewers cover a huge area, but for the most part, it's unknown.
And so we do a little bit of, I guess we could call it virtual for follow-ups. You know, people will send photos or videos if something's missing in a facility, but routine inspections, we haven't even I had explored that at all.
Okay, thank you. We have time for about 2 more questions. So there are several questions on the board about the validity of inspections and the fact that the operators would most easily be able to not show you things that they don't want you to see as they're walking around their establishments. Were there any actions that your jurisdictions took to ensure that you were seeing all of what you needed to see, and anything that you used to follow up to ensure the safety of those establishments?
So I'm actually a little passionate about this one because I really see that virtual inspections, me, Amanda, not MDART, Amanda, sees that virtual inspections really could be helpful in the future, especially we have a lot of rural area that you have to drive far distances to get to them. So 2 things that I noticed were, number 1, you have to have active managerial control. If you don't have that, they're very difficult. And when you're talking about active managerial control, you're talking about the priority foundations that you want to focus on, not so much floors, walls, ceilings. So if you miss some of the floors, walls, ceilings, is it really the end of the world? The second thing is that really helped was we actually had a couple people who did full walkthroughs. So they had them start either at the back door or the front door and did a walkabout the whole building, opening up all the doors, and then a walkabout around the building so that they could get a general picture of how it was laid out before they even started the inspection. I think that really helps get the gist of it.
Great, thank you. And we're at the top of the hour, but I did want to ask one final question if I could. Is there anything that you all have learned from these virtual inspections? Any maybe negative feedback that we can turn into challenges and improvements if something were to happen like this and we did have to do virtual inspections? Would anyone like to quickly comment on anything that they have learned and would implement in the future?
I am just going to say, I love the idea of making sure that your operator has a buddy during the inspection. I think I'm not sure if our field staff had been really requesting that or not. So yeah, probably moving forward, buddy system.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you very much to all of our presenters. Thank you very much to everyone joining the call today. This was a lot of valuable information, and we're very pleased to be able to bring this information to you. So keep a lookout for a follow-up email with more guidance and more documentation. We'll also put things on our website at neha.org under our COVID section. And thank you all to the presenters, and I hope you all are well and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.